I have the honor now of chairing the panel on social media archiving from an institutional point of view. And I have 3 speakers here. I will ask each of them to come up individually and then to give their talks. And then during the question and answer session, they will join here at the panel so that we can have an interaction also between the 3 speakers and those of you online and in the audience that are asking questions. Our first speaker is joining us from the Royal Danish Library, Anders. He is a program manager at the National Danish Web Archive, and he, together with colleagues, is collecting, preserving, and providing access to the Danish web, and we will get to hear a lot more about that now in his talk. The floor is yours, Anders.
Great to see you all. As said, I'm Anders, and I'm from Denmark, and I'll tell you about social media archiving at the Royal Danish Library. So first, here's the agenda. First, some background on legal deposit law, something about crawl strategy, accession, what do we actually want to archive, a bit of stats, a way forward, and then also examples of search, discovery, and playback. So I think that after these 15 minutes, you'll know a lot more about what we do and why we do it. Can I also have the presentation down there in one of the screens? That would be helpful. So I work here at the Black Diamond in Copenhagen, and it's just at the arrow here. We sit 4 persons, and we also like other persons in Aarhus. We have a legal deposit law, and we have collected material from the internet since 2005. And it's basically everything that's published by Danes in Danish or addressed to a Danish audience. So it's a pretty broad legal deposit law. Translated is material published on electronic communication networks. So that's pretty broad as well. So what do we have all together in the archive? What have we actually collected since 2005? So it's like almost a petabyte of data. It's deduplicated and it's compressed. It's almost 40 billion objects. And an object could be any file, basically. And here's just the facets of what we have. Of course, a lot of HTML, a lot of images, not so many Excel sheets. And we have harvested around 3 million unique domains through the ages. So maybe there's 1.3 million active domains, but it's also like historical domains. So if you look through the years, you can see, of course, some trends, and you can see 2017, oh, what is going on there? And there was a big compression project that year. But you need to know that as a researcher, that you can't base your research on 2017. So in terms of crawl strategies, we have a broad crawl with top-level domains. We do selective harvest. News sites, political parties, other important stuff, and also social media, and I'll get back to that. We do event harvest, so Corona, COVID is something we do, and talking about when do you stop collecting Twitter or Corona. We try to say that when something goes from an event to like a state, then the event is kind of over. Just to put that into perspective. And then we do special harvest that could be Google Plus closing, Flickr changing their, the way that you can, how many pictures you can have up free or stuff like that. Then we want to harvest some of that. So our social media strategy, which is from 2021 and until 2025, is roughly translated into this. we have issues with it. We have technical stuff that sites exclude us, and it's also difficult to actually identify what we want to harvest. If we got all YouTube to be able to harvest that, what about storage? And also dynamic content, embedded files, etc. It's difficult to get that content as well. So we have a prioritization with Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr in that kind of order. An important thing to notice is, and other media that appear, it could be another social media that comes around that is more important or we want to keep for the future. So the strategy also states that we want to have a representative selection. And that's something the creators do with the other libraries, curators. And mainly based on numbers of followers, how popular they are. But basically it's a subjective kind of way of looking at it. Who's got many followers? It's not like we have a definitive list. So I'll get a bit into that. So we try, of course, to use other people's research on that. So thanks. So of course, people use all the time, different way to define a corpora. So here it could be all people that ran for government, parliament in Denmark. That's like a good example of, okay, that's a representative democracy. So of course you want to have everybody that is running for parliament. We use other kinds of research as well. So it's an ongoing work, and the list will just continue, and people will fall off, and it's difficult to update. We'd definitely like to have some kind of more ranking service or somebody helping us with evaluating stuff like this. The strategy also states that we have to look at something that is not only the most popular, and we're constantly evaluating and qualifying a list. And we use, of course, our curiosity, research, I said daily stand-up means we talk about it and figuring out what is the most important, what is the most representative stuff. We might even scrape influencers to see what they link to and kind of broaden our scope that way. And of course, input from researchers as well, but not that much. In the future, there could be like business intelligence that come up with top 1,000 list of most influential Facebook pages in Denmark, and then we could look at that. But one thing that is really important is that we could make the finest lists of every social media, but that doesn't matter if we can't actually crawl it or harvest it or archive it. So let's see at some of the numbers of our current harvest of social media. So we can just look at the sheer numbers of objects gathered from each social media domain. And this is through all the times, and of course numbers can be deceiving. So for instance, we'll see it in a moment. This is Twitter, have like 200,000 images from that. Right now we're blocked, we don't get anything with Heritrix, but we use an API in a pilot project. And of course you can have these slides afterwards, you can look more into details. Same with Facebook, difficult to get with Heritrix. We get some mobile pages, for instance, but it's difficult. YouTube, blocked from YouTube, totally. And this is the YouTube domain, but you could also have google.video, so needs to be taken in consideration too, that it's more videos than this. Reddit is pretty successful, easy to crawl. Instagram via Pesuki, pretty easy. TikTok, not easy, but we did get something with Archive.it, and I can see there are videos from hair tricks, TikTok videos. I have no idea how we got through to them, but somehow it crawled its way through content. And then Tumblr, we have a lot of content, but also curated stuff there. So this is just like all the 200 codes, with the green one being the entire web archive, and this is social media, the one you saw before on the slide. So, and as you stated, everything is thinking about social media, and normal web is not something in people's mind, but you see the asymmetry here. This is maybe difficult for you to see, but if you look at the one with the two blue peaks, that's actually Twitter. And you can see it closes down in 2020 in June. All of a sudden, they changed platform technology. So we don't have Twitter from June 2020. And you can see that on this. And this is the amount of objects. And if you look into, this is just Reddit, Instagram, TikTok, and Tumblr, you can see the scale changes here. You can see we have a lot of Reddit from 2000 where we focused more on that. So you can use tools to look into that. Just some examples of stuff we did at Event Harvest where we looked into different social media. So a way forward could be to focus on efforts that actually adds content to the archive. It's a list and nominating stuff is definitely not enough. So it could be to have Twitter Harvest with API in production at scale. Maybe once a year using high quality, hi-fi web recorder browser tricks technology to get, like, let's say 100 profiles with all comments from, I don't know, 1 year and then a year back, and then next year do the same, and so on and so forth. Yeah, maybe identifying valuable content on sites that can actually be crawled, like Pisuki. Is there something that is like easy to get? And then, of course, playback is important as well. So you can crawl Facebook with comments, but to playback is a bit difficult sometimes. You need to make sure that you can actually play back and also search the content. And I'll just show briefly some of the playback and also some examples of how we use our interface, which is Solar Wayback. That it looks into a Solar index that has been made from the WARC files. And of course, Solar Wayback is open source application. Everybody can download it, contribute to it, and so forth. Just shortly, we don't have basically any collections. It's one big archive. But of course, you have an ID in our harvesting software, which is NetArchive Suite, so you can look at it later on. And it's a closed archive. It's basically only for researchers that have a specific project they want to investigate. But researchers can also get a data dump if they have specified a corpora they want out, and then get CSV files on a specific project, and then maybe use R or whatever kind of tool they want to use to be better on that. So this is the Solar Wayback interface, and I've just searched for sociale media, which is social media in Danish. And you can see there are like 3 million objects to that. You can visualize that by domain, so where is that mentioned, the word social media. And you can see here, okay, these are the domains over here. You have an Ngram search visualization. Here you have the social media that are prioritized. So the green one is Facebook. You can see in 2019, the big one is 20% of all HTML pages had Facebook written somewhere on the page. Think about that. That is, I had to double check with our developers. Is that true? Yeah, but then on the contact information, there's a lot of Facebook on each page, and it's harvested many times. But still, it is there. You can also see the drop in Twitter because we harvested Twitter less. So that maybe explains, you can at least see the trend there. And just down there you can see the Tumblr and the Reddit and the TikTok. And if I take that alone, you can see there's a lot of effort going on with Reddit in 2020-21. And you can see that trend. You can see TikTok didn't exist, so it only comes later on. So if I want to search in the archive, I'll say domain, twitter.com, and my name. And okay, there is actually a harvest here. That's interesting. And when I play back it, it looks like this. And we have a lot of Twitter content that looks like this in the archive. I think it looks great, and it's great fidelity. You can even see some 5 shares or 5 likes or something. And you can free text search in everything that is here, the comments and whatever. What you can see on the top is that we are shutting, this is the old version of Twitter, we are shutting down 1st of June 2020. And definitely did that because we don't have Twitter content via Heritrix from that date. So it's funny that we have archived like this is going to happen soon, we're going to close, we're going to change technology. So what have we done? Okay, we tried to do a pilot project on Twitter API harvesting. And so it's not in the web archive as such now, but we have a lot of terabytes with it on the side. And we have given a specific facet, Twitter tweet, and then you can search for that, and hopefully it can be in the archive at some point. So even made like look and feel playback, but it's not the way Twitter intended. We just wanted to make, okay, well, how would it actually look? And I have blacked out all the pictures because I don't know who made them. But you can free text search in everything here, and that's the good thing. You can even play back video, and you can mouse over and see amount of followers and stuff like that, so you can see over here. So let's take a look at Facebook, which of course I think in our Internet Archive there's probably lots of early Facebook, but this was the earliest I could find in our archive, which is funny, because I was considering copyright and stuff when doing this, and it was just like a Mark Zuckerberg production, Facebook copyright 2006. That's pretty hilarious. But so I think it's okay to credit him for that and show it here. And that brings us all the way forward to newer Facebook, or should we say like middle period Facebook, 2014, where everything was a bit more open. So I vaguely remember, I've been in the web archive for 4 years and at the library for 4 years. So I remember posting something about Jeff Buckley at the National Broadcaster's Facebook page, reacting on something. So I searched for Facebook, Buckley, and my name. And then you got this. Something, and my name right there. From 2014. And when I click on the playback, there's a content field, I can expand that, and there you can see all the text that is actually indexed. And my name is there, and I'm writing about being on Roskilde, seeing him, and I'm on my way to a Nirvana memory concert, something like that. And if you play back it, you can see what is in the varg field. The content field is actually played back here. That's how it's indexed in the varg field anyways. But this is with Heritrix. So for many years you could actually crawl Facebook pretty well and even get comments. But this is I think it's m.facebook actually, let's see. Yeah, it's m.facebook, which shows it a bit different way. And then I tried to see, copyright and stuff, so where is this picture from? So I put it into Google Lens. I never tried that before and figured out it's from this one. It's Jeff Buckley, at BBC, it's still online. I could just see, okay, this is the exact frame that they used without crediting. So pretty interesting. And this is example of a newer, like 2020 Facebook with the archive-web.page, I think, where you can play back the video due to how Wayback interprets it, but you can see comments, you can see likes, and yeah. And this is something of my Facebook. And here you can see the content down there. It's very little information, but you can see effective works kræver nogle gange. There's some kind of text that is indexed. And if you go to the post, you can actually see it has taken the first few words. But it doesn't do that today, but it did at that time. But all the information down here in text, that's not searchable in our archive because it's probably JSON, and that JSON is not indexed the same way. So you have a lot of Facebook content where you can find like posts, and then the text will only be there when you play back. And of course need to rectify that. So, of course, you can reach out to me if you want to find out more about our archive or the technology that we use, and I'll be happy to share also the presentation, so you can click around and see all the good links. I think that was it.
Next, a presentation from Katrine from KADOK from Karlova towards best practices for the archiving of social media by private archival institutions in Flanders. The floor is yours.
Everybody can hear me, right? And the slides are very, very small, so I cannot see them, but okay. Let me fly over the project we have currently running at KADOK KU Leuven. It's a bit similar than the Be Social project, so I really have to fly over it because I have a lot to tell otherwise. So let me first start where it started, the project at KADOK. KADOK is an interfaculty documentation center and research center related to the Catholic University of Leuven. We're not the university archives, we're not the university library. We hold an own collection on the interaction between religion, society, and culture. So really how religion is visible in society. We hold archives, we hold periodicals, we have a heritage library, and we also have already a large collection, some 3 million digital objects in our preservation system. That consists of born digital and digitized objects. Most of them contain digitized forms of analog heritage. We also have a born digital collection, and there are some web archives already in it, but I can count them on my 2 hands, so that's not a lot. We don't really have a structural way of archiving the web. But we are well equipped because we have a preservation system, so that is very nice. But we don't have a full-time digital archivist or a librarian who is busy with web archiving or digital objects. So we still have things to do because the digital environment is getting bigger. But why did we start? Oh, sorry. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Why did we start a project concerning social media archiving? It's because we saw that our collection was not anymore very representative for what we are collecting. We see the emergence of new groups, new religions. After the 1960s, the Catholic Church was diminishing a bit, and other groups came in Belgium, and like the migrant churches that are emerging are getting bigger, and we don't have a lot of information of these communities in our collection. So this is one of the reasons why we thought we have to do something with web archiving, because these communities, they don't have a lot on paper. Their heritage is more on the web than on paper. And we saw that they are very active on social media. And the social media are really replacing really the traditional media. So it became more and more clear that we have to put some effort into social media archiving, but we didn't do any web archiving. And why not websites? We saw even that social media was taking the place of normal websites. So why bother and put our effort in websites, archiving websites. No, we wanted immediately to go to social media archiving and do a research, see what we can do and what not. There were already in Flanders some experiments, some partners and archives that were already busy with social media archiving, but there were not a lot. Web archiving, there were more initiatives, but of course, social media are super complex, even more complex than websites. So we thought we needed our own project to work from. And then we went and searched for partners because we knew we could not do this on our own. And we found a partner called MEMO, that is the Flemish Institute or organization that is supporting the cultural heritage sector in Flanders. And they really lead digital transformation in Flanders. So they were the perfect partner to bring in more technical expertise, because we don't really have a dedicated person for digital archives and the digital questions. So this was a perfect partner for us. He's the main, or they are the main partner in the project. But next to that, we also asked content partners to join us. We have a lot of partners, archives, private archives in the sector, which also build thematic collections like we do at KADOK. And they also wanted to work on their web collections and also were interested in collecting social media, so they were happy to join us. And they have a big role in the project because they also participated in the pilot projects that we rolled out. There was also one service provider linked to a museum included, or is included, because the project is still running. And of course, we're very glad that we could also include the experts of the Be Social project and also the results that they have come across. That's really nice to have both in our project, and we learned a lot of them. To have also the research perspective more introduced in our project, which was with more partners of the institutional kind of view. We also included the KU Leuven Institute for Media Studies. They have already done a lot of projects, research projects on social media and on the data sets. So that's really valuable to our project to bring in that research look. So what did the project look like? We have 3 years in 3 phases. We tried to research web archiving or social media archiving and all the facets of the process. It started in September 2020, and now we still have 1 year to finish the 3-year project. We got funding from the Flemish government, but we had to limit the scope because otherwise it would be too much to handle for us. So we limited the scope to only do the research for public posts on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Why these platforms? Because the content partners thought that was the most important to have a look at. And our objective was really to make it something practical, to give best practices and search for best practices, to capture, describe, preserve, and give access to the social media archives. I'm talking about archiving. When I talk about archiving, it's really describing to make things findable and preserving it also. So that's really essential, I think, for the archives. Very important for us was also that it should be something sustainable. We are really searching for solutions that we can use the next 10 years, let's say. So that was also important. Why did we start this project while Be Social was already going on? That's maybe also a good question. We proceeded in the project because we thought we had a totally different angle and we have a totally different ground to work from. So the Be Social project goes back to national law, deposit law, which is not the case for the private archives. We rely on regional law. We are smaller institutions with different budgets, and that has effect, of course, on all the processes which we came across in social media archiving. Plus, also important is we work from an archival point of view, and for us, context and also the connection with other archives or other materials in the archive is also something different, which is not the case for the Be Social partners and KBR. They are collecting social media as one big collection. For us, we have already our selection criteria, and we know what we want, and it's related to material in our collection already. So selection was also not part of this project because we left that to the partners who delivered content and did the pilots. So let me tell you something about the two first phases that we have already done. Those two phases were centered around capture and archiving, so crawling really, or scraping, or downloading, and then archiving as in describing and preserving. In the first phase, we had a look into the free and open source tools for archiving. We did pilots, so we did a selection of these tools, and then we did pilots with the tools, so we could make some conclusions. We also tested the ingest and preservation in two pilots. One was done by Memo, one was done by KADOC. In the second phase, we looked more to the commercial tools and the APIs for archiving, so a different kind of working. We also did the pilots with the content partners. We also evaluated the tools, and we added something extra in our project. This was not foreseen, but we saw that we needed a more in-depth research on the legal framework. I will come to that later. Also to the conclusions I will come later, because what was our goal? To first define that, we asked our partners, what is it you like? What do you want to capture? Because social media are so complex, there are so many items, things to look into. And they immediately said, okay, for most of them, it's very important to capture everything. For half of the group, it was important to also have the look and feel. So not only the texts of the messages, the comments, the embedded media, and the profile data, but also really the screen you see. For the other half of them, they said, no, it's also okay to just have the raw data, but embedded media, they should work. So not a still of a video, we want the working video then. So that's how we started. Most of them wanted to start with accounts, a seed list on accounts, but also a great part of them also wanted to do event-based capturing, so based on hashtags, but that would come later in the project. I will not discuss all the tools that we selected and did the pilots with, but you can see them here. And maybe it's interesting to tell you that we also asked permission to use the academic track, so the full API, Twitter API, to use that, so we could go way back into accounts. But we didn't have permission, so we only could capture 7 days in the past, which was a pity, of course. Maybe it has something to do with the word archive that we mentioned in our application form. We think that's the case. We did multiple applications, but never succeeded. So here you have a form which is maybe interesting for others to use. So we created an evaluation form, and you can download it from our website. It's in Dutch. It can be used to evaluate data sets or tools. Did I get everything or not? But you can translate it using a translator tool, I guess. Maybe also interesting is a documentation about the information packages we used during the pilots. So you can find it online, download it. Something about legal framework, but I'm not going to talk a lot about it because you can tell a lot, but Lisanne already talked about it, so let me keep it here, that it's a very complex matter, and we thought that we could push it to the package around access, giving access, but we already saw in the first year that it was needed that we did some more in-depth research for capturing data. You have a lot of rights, a lot of people who are involved, a lot of formats to have a look at. And these are the rights you have, the privacy rights you have to consider based on GDPR. We thought, okay, we have some exceptions we can use, but it seemed that our ground was not that solid, so we're already working on it to make it more solid. Then you have copyright. You have copyright that is related to the DSM directive, which still needs to be fully transposed into Belgian law. We're still waiting on that. It seemed that we also can rely on some exceptions, but we have to examine it further to make conclusions. And then the most difficult thing to overcome are the terms of service of the platforms. They are constantly changing, that's one thing. But there are also a lot of restrictions. For example, for automated harvests, there are restrictions for publishing, and that will be something big to overcome. So, yeah, here just balancing all the rights is a complex thing. Maybe you're interested in some results. After the first and the second phase, we saw that although we thought commercial tools would be the best option for us, it was not the case. Why not? Because we thought they did not deliver enough added value. For example, Archive.it, a great tool to work with, but for Facebook, it didn't work. Facebook blocked everything, and we also had the same problem in with the free and open source tools. But we didn't pay for them, so also the budget was also something we had to look at, and then Archive.it was not the best option for us. So working with a lot of free open source tools would be the option, the best option. But then the question comes, everything is rapidly changing, platforms are changing, and so also the tools. How can we handle that kind of evolution, that quick evolution? And also, what can we do? Because a lot of these tools are automated. Can we capture them and comply with the legal framework we've researched? That's something we are still working on. We think the best solution is for us to build a network of practitioners that use those open source tools, and to share in that network our knowledge, update manuals, tackle issues, and work together really, because I think personally, but I think it's also the conclusion of the project of the last 2 years, that it's the only way we can cope with all the problems. We want to use existing platforms to build that network, so we're already in contact with the Netherlands. They have already a platform for connecting with the network. They have already a web network around web archiving, so we want to connect there. We will use our own publishing platform, the platform of CES project. But we also want to connect to other associations, nationally, internationally, to share knowledge and to build a vibrant network, really. And stimulate also social media web archiving. So where we're now, we just started the last phase. We are still doing pilots again, but now around access, giving access to the data sets we've captured. You can see here all the pilots that I've listed and all the use cases that we see. We also dive deeper into the legal framework. We hope to have our conclusions ready in September, and we also hope that we can really publish guidelines, things people can use, something practical that will really stimulate others to join us and to archive these media. So for CADOC, the process is started, and we hope to go further with it, embed web archiving in our organization. That will not be easy because we have the legal framework to have a look into, and also a department that is behind us asking, is this legally okay? So this is something to take care of. And in this project, we are researching public posts, but I have a lot of questions from colleagues. What about private posts? Can we archive them? Please say yes, because this is really interesting. So that's something extra we need to take care of and have a look into later after this project. Thank you for listening, and if you want more information, you can find the links in the presentation or just mail or call me. Yeah?
Thank you very much. It was really interesting to hear about the work you're doing on the social media archiving at CADOC. We gave you some extra time to finish off your presentation, which means we don't have time for a specific question, so we'll leave that for the 20-minute discussion following these talks. So don't worry, you'll still get them. It's just to keep the timing also for those following us online that are joining at different times. We have one last speaker of this panel on institutional views, Virginien from the Archives of the City of Mons. He's an archivist there, and he will speak to us about archiving the web in small archive centers. That's how you move forward. Stay close to the mic. Your slide should be.
Thanks. So I will present it in a small archive center. It's not the same as biggest library or the CADOC. It's really small, nice. I'm the archivist of the City of Mons. The service of archives is 5 persons. And I am a member of the Association des Archives francophones de Belgique. So my presentation will be divided in 4 parts. First, I will present the context of creation of the 2 projects, Archives de Quarantaine and Mémoire de Confinement. Then I present the first project, national project, as second project of local interest, and a conclusion of the future of all this data. So the context is the COVID-19 context. We have a lot of problem in a local perspective. First confinement was, the first measure of confinement was laid in 17 March in Belgium of 2020. And then closed archive center, teleworking as for enterprise, school, hospitals and others is mandatory. And now what do? We are archivists, we are historians, work with paper, work with digital archives of our administrations, or other project. So the Archives francophones de Belgique, AFB, en de Vlaamse vereniging van Bibliotheek, Archief en Documentatie, VVBRD, 2 associations of archivists, from French part for AFB and Flemish part of the country for VVBRD, thinking and discuss about it. In March and beginning of April, the thinking began. Question, what can we do to help our members to archive the presence of COVID-19? What do we do? What do we have as tools? What experience? What skills of our members? How to motivate the troop? And the result is the development of a common project, and the common project is Archives de Quarantaine. Archives de Quarantaine is so our website, a common project of 2 parts of the country, a national project of 2 associations. And there was 2 purposes of this website. The first purpose was to propose and present tools for archiving the present. as I speak, it's the context of COVID-19 is important. The archiving tools is not just web or social media, but it also how to archive photos, videos, photos on paper or digital, how to receive testimonies, testimonies like oral testimony or textual testimonies, and so on. And how to archive the web pages of our administration or other associations, and the social media. As you can see on the illustration, there is a lot of tools and articles about tools, how to manage metadata, what about the Mémoire de Quarantaine project in Namur, so not from Mons. And so web and social media was one of our important discussion. And we have so written 3 articles on the website. The first of how to manage the data from the crisis. Then some solution about how to archive the website, blog, and social media. We test from a lot of software from a list of International Internet Preservation Consortium, IPC. And then a solution that we use in Mons, single file. And then we have a second purpose in Archives de Quarantaine, the website. It's to highlight the collecting project of our members. Our members are so archivists, with a lot of center, private and public sector. But we highlight also collecting projects from citizens and abroad, because the French project and other projects from other countries are also interesting to develop our own project. So all of this is written in some article on the website Archives de Quarantaine. And then it led to the Mémoire de Confinement project. It's a city project from Mons with our beautiful city hall in the illustration. So it's the City of Mons with a small service of 5 people. It's so a local vision with local selection. It's maybe a local translation of a more national project. And the local project is divided in 2 big projects. Passive work with an email address to receive the testimony from citizens, an online questionnaire, and also a more active work, which is interests us in this presentation, with website that we use with HTTP and for social media. I speak it in the context. The COVID-19 project is important because all what happened is now online. We must telework, we can't drink something with our friends, so all happen online. So what can we conserve to conserve this problematic of all happen online? So we choose social media archiving. First of the discuss was how to select. Twitter, Instagram, and other social media were not as interested as I speak it. In Mons, we are city. Our purpose or core business was to document the present in a local institution in a small city of Belgium, of middle city. So Twitter, Instagram, as I see it, it was not as more interactive as other social media. It was more complicated to have the comments, to have the sentiment of the people, the sense of the people. TikTok was really new at that time, at the COVID-19 time, and so it was for young people not as much as interaction as now, because now it's a big social media for young people and maybe more now. And so we choose to focus our effort on Facebook. Facebook was a logical choice for us because we have a lot more different ages with working men from Mons and from abroad of Mons who work in Mons. We have the communication of the mayor, the communication of the city and other administration from our city. And also all the communication go by Facebook for administration. But Facebook is quite complicated, as we see in other projects, national or local projects. So which tool using? We have tested some of free software from IPC, and it's on the Archives de Quarantaine website. But the problem with a lot of tools was the problem with interaction between people. The comments were not all records. And our own technical skills. We are 5 people in my service, where I'm an archivist, I have a colleague librarian, and 3 other people. We're really helpful, but not for some technical skills. And so, after a lot of tests with Linux solution and Microsoft solution, we choose single file. Single file and single file Z. Single file is so a Firefox add-on, really easy to use and easy to read for after. It's open source and it preserves the look and feel. It presents, voilà, as you see, you can have the look and feel of the pages. It's an extract from our files, our records files. So it's HTML files. For single file, it's HTML file, and if you use single file zip, you can open it in zip files, zip readable files with all the images and the original HTML text. For now on, there is a lot, more than 60 files for months, from March, from the beginning of COVID to June of this year. But the problem with single files is that it's not work. It's not the international norm that, of preservation of internet. It's not automated. We must do this manually. But for local selection, it's doable. It's makeable because we don't have a lot of pages as we see after. So manual scrolling, maybe other add-ons can help, but it's not perfect. And manual clicking for comments to appear. And what about the long-term readability? Because it's a one file and one HTML file. And what do we do in long term for that? Maybe a possible loss of look and feel. And the question about HTML is important because if we lose the look and feel of the file, of the web page, of the Facebook page, we have the chance to preserve the textual information below. As we see, the comment from the community manager of Mons is readable in the HTML file without the look and feel. So if we lose the look and feel, we can maybe search in textual information. And we must do regular verification and readability. So a local project is not a perfect project, but we have a lot of data for my city. The result is, during March and July 2020, more than 60 pages records from association, politician, and other page linked to the city. I think about hospitals, police, and other. So more than 300 files for more than 3 gigaoctets. And we have records 2 pages to this year, to June 222. And it was the City of Mons and the Mayor of Mons, because it was the more active pages of our cities. 60 files for both of them. And why June of this year? Because it was the annual festivity of Mons, where the annual festivity was not led since the COVID-19, and now it's the first year that we can do that. What's the use of all this data? It's for scientific purpose in that time, for museum purpose, because at Mons we have a lot of museums. And the Mons Memorial Museum, which is a museum about war and other crises, is now interested in these records. But what about the GDPR and other legislation? All the members of this panel speak about that. Well, it's quite difficult to speak about that in here, but we use the exception of GDPR and other things. And maybe, for now on, the project of collecting data from COVID-19 is at City of Mons now closed. But we have tools and methods to record Facebook and other websites. Single files we can use single files with other websites and other social media. It's really to use, and voila. So if you have more questions, you can reach me. And,
Thank you so much. It was really clear. and really nice to see what you're working on in the archives in the city of Mons, and also really interesting to see 3 very different strategies and perspectives and even workflows and ways of collecting social media.